Market misery this Monday night. Stocks slide, recession fears rise, but the U.S. president remains defiant.
Our country has gotten a lot stronger.
The advice from experts on protecting your money and mental health. Financial aid. Both the Liberals and Conservatives promise support for seniors whose savings are being mauled by the markets. A home run of a deal. The MLB player who just signed the biggest contract in Canadian sports history. Plus, the unsettling sounds of the White Lotus.
My stuff generally is pretty dark.
The Canadian composer behind the hit TV show's soundtrack, and why this is his swan song.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Global stocks are churning again, with investors reeling over the American president's trade war. For a third straight day, steep losses hit Wall Street, Bay Street, and international markets. The Dow dropped more than 300 points. The S&P 500 and the TSX also tumbled again today. And underscoring the sense of panic among investors, the VIX index, better known as Wall Street's fear gauge, today spiked to levels not seen since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Investors here, there, and everywhere are bracing for more extreme economic uncertainty. We'll tell you how you can protect your pocketbook in just a moment, but we begin with our Jackson Proskow in Washington, where Trump faced the cameras late today.
On Wall Street, fear.
I have a bad feeling about the market opening today.
At the White House, defiance.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it.
Days into President Donald Trump's self-imposed trade war, the markets remain highly volatile. Down sharply, then briefly rebounding on false rumors Trump might pause tariffs, before diving again, as Trump threatened an additional 50% tariff on China and called off further talks unless China lifts its reciprocal tariffs on U.S. goods.
What we don't know is, where do we go from here? How long do these last? What gets negotiated down or negotiated away?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came to the White House as the first foreign leader seeking a tariff reprieve.
We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States.
There can be permanent tariffs and there can also be negotiations.
All the while, Trump's top trade advisors continue to brush aside the panic and the risks to the economy.
We're going to get to a place where America makes stuff again. Real wages are going to be up. Profits are going to be up.
Some of Trump's backers no longer seem convinced of the strategy. On social media, billionaire Trump supporter Bill Akin warned if the tariffs remain, we are heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down.
We're going to get fair deals and good deals with every country, and if we don't, we're going to have nothing to do with them. They're not going to be allowed to participate in the United States.
The first hearings into Trump's tariffs are scheduled for Tuesday, and now at least 7 Republican senators have joined with Democrats pushing legislation to claw back Trump's authority over tariffs. The White House has responded with the threat that the president will veto any legislation if it's passed. Jeff?
Jackson Proskow in Washington. Thanks, Jackson. The market sell-off is happening right around the world. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng index fell by 13% today. That's its worst day since 1997. Take a look at these steep losses since Trump unveiled his global tariffs last Wednesday. Markets in Germany and the UK are also down by over 10%. The EU is joining China in saying it will respond with counter tariffs, but other countries, such as Japan and the UK, have not. Redmond Shannon reports on the international response and fears it could prolong the misery.
European Union trade ministers called to order amid market chaos. The bloc not encouraged by its tariff dialogue with Washington.
We haven't seen the real engagement which would lead to the mutually acceptable solution.
The EU is considering tariffs on a range of US goods, reportedly at 25%, a countermeasure to US steel and aluminum tariffs. Only then will it respond to Donald Trump's 20% levy on all EU goods.
The UK got off relatively lightly with a 10% blanket tariff last week, but the rubber is now hitting the road here on Trump's auto tariffs.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited a Jaguar Land Rover plant after the company paused US exports, keen to stress he's not out for revenge.
We will keep calm and fight for the best deal with the US.
There are similar tactical differences within Asia, as its stocks plummet too. Economies there dealing with even higher tariffs, not least China, which Trump is now threatening to punish for issuing its counter-tariffs. Japan's Prime Minister says he won't follow China's lead. Shigeru Ishiba instead preferring to negotiate.
If we could agree to retaliate with a uniform tariff on the US by 10%, I think that would be great. So I think show of unity, that's what I'm looking for.
This economist believes tariffed nations should not only coordinate, but make sure they focus on the US and not end up fighting amongst themselves too. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
As Trump's trade war wreaks havoc on stock markets and the broader economy, it's also hitting personal finances. Whether it's savings or investments, the threat of a recession is causing major concerns. And Gaviola looks at what you can do to prepare for tough financial times.
Groceries and gas are killing us, and our pensions are so low, we basically are surviving on CPP and old age.
For retirees or anyone on a fixed monthly budget, the high cost of living and stock market fluctuations can hit hard.
The world has just suffered a major shock. It is not clear when it will end.
Markets are grappling with the impact of Trump's escalating tariff war, which raises the specter of a global economic recession. Wall Street's fear gauge, the VIX, has soared to crisis levels. It spiked during the 2008 financial crisis, again during the early COVID years, and it's been on a tear since March.
I'm honestly telling people, be like an emotionless robot who, they could look at a headline and feel nothing.
Personal finance experts are being bombarded with questions from people panicked about the volatility in their portfolios.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild. This is the time to kind of hunker down and be more diligent with your spending.
Their advice: manage the things you can control. Create a new budget if you have to and stick to it. Start or build up your cash cushion.
You may be next in line to have your job being eliminated. That's why it's even more important now than ever to have an emergency savings fund.
And do what you need to do to protect your peace of mind. That might mean checking on your investments monthly instead of daily.
Looking back on history is kind of a good practice, just to remind yourself that this isn't the end of the world. Things do get better.
Anne Gaviola, Global News, Toronto.
Liberal leader Mark Carney responded to that market volatility during a campaign stop on Vancouver Island. He's pledging temporary financial relief for seniors who may be watching their nest eggs shrink. David Akin is traveling with the Liberal campaign. David.
Well, Jeff, the Liberals had planned to announce financial support for seniors some days later in this campaign. But with the markets tanking and people's investment portfolios shrinking, the Liberals moved that up to this morning.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There may be some tough days ahead for Canadians, but I also want to reassure that we are prepared.
The Liberals, if re-elected, say they will boost the guaranteed income supplement by 5% for a year. The Liberals will also reduce the minimum amount that must be withdrawn from registered retirement income funds, or RRIFs, by 25% for the next year.
The benefit here is that seniors won't have to withdraw as much of their hard-earned savings when markets are volatile, as they will continue to be until this trade war is sorted out.
The Conservatives, by contrast, would give seniors an extra 2 years from age 71 to age 73 before requiring that RRSPs be turned into RRIFs.
This 2-year delay will save many seniors from being forced to crystallize losses they're experiencing on the stock market today.
Not yet. Carney, the former central banker, also warns conditions might get worse.
The probability of a recession in the United States has gone up significantly. You see that from independent commentators, and something that we had warned about, and I take no joy in that it becoming more likely. That will have significant effects on the Canadian economy.
Now, one of the unique things about this campaign is the darker it gets for the country economically, the brighter it gets for the Liberals politically. And that's because poll after poll has shown that when Canadians are voting on who's best to deal with Trump, tariffs, and the economy, and that includes a lot of seniors, Mark Carney wins that ballot question. Jeff.
David Akin in Saanich, BC. Thanks, David. The Chinese government is attempting to interfere in the election campaign. According to Canadian security officials, they warned a Beijing-backed information operation on the social media platform WeChat is targeting Chinese Canadians with posts promoting Mark Carney for taking a tough stance against Donald Trump's trade war, while other posts also criticized Carney for aligning himself with Trump against China. Ontario Premier Doug Ford unveiled a plan to provide $11 billion in tax relief to support workers and businesses stung by President Trump's tariffs.
I'm thoroughly disappointed he's taken this avenue, but the people will speak down in the U.S., the markets are speaking, and hopefully he's going to listen. If not, they're going into a recession.
Ontario businesses will see some of their provincial taxes deferred for 6 months until October. The province is also issuing a $2 billion rebate for employers through the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre was in northwestern BC today, pitching a plan to speed up approvals for major resource projects. He says his one-and-done approach would see one application and one environmental review for each project. But as Mackenzie Gray reports, streamlining that approval process may not be so simple.
At a northern BC port, the Conservative leader promised to get even more natural resources projects off the ground.
This rule will cut through red tape and get projects done quickly. Build fast, bringing jobs and paychecks home.
Those rules include approving or rejecting natural resources projects within a year and creating an office to deal with all federal, provincial, and municipal rules under one roof.
We need to move at the speed of business to bring our jobs home and become self-reliant.
The Conservatives also outlined 10 priority projects they plan to fast-track, mostly mines, but it includes LNG Canada Phase 2, despite the fact the project's already been approved by both the federal and BC governments. The holdup? The company deciding if there's a business case for expansion. Investment delays Poilievre blames on the Liberals.
It's the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal MPs, same Liberal policies, and it will have the same Liberal results.
While Mark Carney has agreed to keep a cap on oil and gas emissions, maintain impact assessment rules, and keep the industrial carbon tax, the Liberals did announce some changes before the election.
So one project, one review. And we will work with the provinces and other stakeholders, Indigenous groups, to identify projects of national significance and accelerate the time frame to build them.
Poilievre didn't outline how he plans to get Indigenous groups who are legally required to be consulted on natural resources projects to speed up their decision-making authority, which if not done properly can kill already approved projects like the Northern Gateway Pipeline back in 2016.
We have a very clear proven record when you forget about, you treat Indigenous people as an afterthought, projects fail.
Poilievre accused the Liberals of wanting to block projects and keep resources in the ground, Jeff, despite the fact that 2024 saw the most natural gas, oil, and other hydrocarbon production in Canadian history.
All right, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thanks, Mac. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was in Toronto today, promising to build more affordable housing. Singh says his party would spend $16 billion to build 3 million homes right across Canada. But there's a catch.
We want to build homes that people can actually afford, and that's why we're going to tie all of this funding. It's going to be in total $16 billion of funding. It's going to be tied to conditions that municipalities and provinces have to make sure that these homes are actually going to stay affordable.
Singh proposed 2 new programs to support municipalities and provinces to accelerate affordable builds, cut red tape, and promote density. While many are worried about their finances, at least one Torontonian is not. Coming up, the record-smashing contract this Toronto Blue Jay reportedly just signed. One day after being surpassed as the NHL's greatest goal scorer, Wayne Gretzky addressed some of the controversy over his political and national allegiances and his close ties to Donald Trump. Speaking on the Ben Mulrooney Show, the Great One said he's proud to be a Canadian and has no pull with the U.S. president.
I don't worry about those kind of things because you can't make everybody happy. But trust me, I have no political power with the Prime Minister or the President. That's between those two guys, and that's why you hold elections.
Gretzky also heaped praise on the NHL's new top scorer, Alexander Ovechkin. Regarding his prior support for Russian President Vladimir Putin, Gretzky says he doesn't look at Ovechkin as a Russian as much as he's an NHL player who's been great for the league. And today it was baseball making the headlines, with multiple reports saying the Toronto Blue Jays have agreed on a mega deal with slugger Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a mind-boggling $500 million US over 14 years. That deal isn't confirmed just yet, pending a physical, but as Eric Sorensen reports, it's a coup for fans who've grown accustomed to losing out on superstars.
He's one of the biggest stars in baseball, and it looks like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is staying in Toronto, and Blue Jays fans couldn't be happier.
I think it's going to be fun to watch.
We need Vladdy.
Definitely worth the money.
He's reportedly signed the biggest contract in Canadian sports history. $500 million over 14 years. Other top Toronto contracts, the Raptors' Scotty Barnes, $225 million over 5 years. The Maple Leafs' Austin Matthews, $53 million for 4 years. Vladdy Jr. has been the Blue Jays' star prospect since he was signed at age 16. 10 years later, at the peak of his career, the fear was he would walk away in free agency. Instead, his new contract could give Bo Bichette and other stars reason to choose Toronto.
Hopefully, in anchoring him here, other players will want to sign here.
Toronto's major sports teams haven't always had success luring or keeping superstar athletes. From Shohei Ohtani to Kawhi Leonard, big U.S. markets usually win out. This signing not only is the most lucrative in Toronto's history, it further elevates the city as a major North American sports market and destination.
And to have one of the best players in the game stating so clearly that this is where he wants to be for 20 years, I think carries a lot of weight.
And it should give the Blue Jays a boost on the field. They've started the year with 5 wins and 5 losses. Vladdy's contract is a distraction the Jays can now put behind them. And he can now continue building what could well be the greatest Blue Jays career in the team's almost 50-year history.
It's just nice to have a forever Blue Jay.
Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Meredith Gaudreau, the wife of late NHL star Johnny Gaudreau, has given birth to their baby boy. The Instagram announcement says Carter Michael Gaudreau is just like his dad, born April 1st, weighing 8 pounds 3 ounces, the exact same as Johnny Gaudreau. Meredith was 2 months pregnant when Johnny and his brother Matthew were killed by an alleged drunk driver while riding their bikes. Carter joins his 2-year-old sister Noah and 1-year-old brother Johnny Jr. Still ahead, Israel's deadly airstrike on an encampment used by journalists in Gaza. An Israeli airstrike on a camp inside the grounds of a Gaza hospital complex overnight killed at least 10 people, according to Palestinian officials, including a journalist. Video shows people trying to extinguish the fires burning through a row of tents used by media workers. Israel says the strike was targeting a member of Hamas. Boeing has reached a settlement with families of 2 people killed in the 2019 Ethiopian Airlines crash. That settlement was reached Sunday night, and it means Boeing avoids a civil trial that would have started today. 157 people died when the Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashed minutes after takeoff. The distinct music of the White Lotus. Up next, the Canadian composer behind the hit show's award-winning soundtrack. Welcome back. Last night was the season finale of the hit HBO drama The White Lotus. Now don't worry, there's no spoilers here, but if you're a fan, you're familiar with its eerie and eccentric music. That's all thanks to its Chilean-Canadian composer. The Quebec musician has won 2 Emmys for the show's soundtrack. Heather Yerkes-West spoke with him about his work and why he's now moving on from the series.
From the first time we heard those opening bars, there was just something about that sound. The HBO series The White Lotus was a hit, but by season 2, Its soundtrack was the bona fide star.
My stuff generally is pretty dark. You know, when I got the script for this, I wasn't sure it was something for me.
4 years later, Chilean-Canadian composer Cristobal Tapia de Veer is still surprised by what his 3 seasons of work have become.
People were commenting a lot about how they feel stressed by the music and stuff like that. And some people were like dancing to the theme.
The season 2 theme became a club favorite. And though social media users weren't sure about the season 3 theme at first, it too eventually took TikTok by storm.
I think to change people's mind is really, it kind of moved me more than, let's say, you know, the club hit, the second one.
Despite his Hollywood success, Tapia de Veer still lives in Canada, calling Quebec's Laurentian Mountains home. It's where he continues to make music, but after years of tension with show creator Mike White, not for the White Lotus anymore.
Is there anything that they could do to coax you back for a 4th season?
No, I don't need to have that vibe anymore, let's say. So I'm good. You know, I'm relieved to just go.
On to create soundtracks for other projects, no longer on the HBO beach, but still uniquely Cristobal. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Calgary.
And that is Global National for this Monday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada showcases this patriotic sunroom in Paradise, Newfoundland and Labrador, the maple leaf flying on a garden shed in Regina's Albert Park, and the Hecate Strait near Prince Rupert, British Columbia. Keep them coming. Send your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.